Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D. for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism. I wanted to speak out both in favor and against Minouche Shafik, the president of Columbia University, one of the Ivy League universities in the United States. Against her, Minouche Shafik has said that any professor who makes anti-Zionist comments should be reprimanded. No, Minouche Shafik, they should not. A professor has academic freedom, in case you didn't know that. If I were at your university, if I were still working, if I were still a professor, then I would be speaking out against the Zionist entity. And I don't know what trouble it would get me into at Columbia. I don't know what trouble it would get me into where I actually did work, maybe some. My students always knew that I was an anti-Zionist. But to be honest, I never had a reason to be as vocal about it as I do right now. And I regard these podcasts on YouTube as a continuation of the lectures I gave while I was still working before I retired as a professor of sociology. So that is against you, Minouche Shafik. You have no right to regulate the speech of professors or to accuse any professors of being anti-Zionist. There is nothing wrong with being an anti-Zionist. Being an anti-Zionist, as you yourself should know, is not the same as being an anti-Semite. Now, supporting Minouche Shafik, Congress is holding hearings on her, interviewing her, interrogating her, accusing her of being anti-Semitic too. And she has been arguing that she is not. You're damn right she is not. Being an anti-Zionist and being an anti-Semite are entirely different things. I was born into an Ashkenazi Jewish family, and although I do not practice the religion of Judaism, as most American Jews do not practice the religion of Judaism, I am the rule, not the exception. But despite that, if I were still working, I would probably say the same things that you did, Minouche Shafik, if not more. I would be saying the identical things to what I have been saying in my podcasts. I would take advantage of the fact that I have academic freedom and that I have the right to speak my mind and to speak out against the horrendous atrocities, the terrorist campaign that continues till this moment in the Gaza Strip. So, how dare you, Congress? How dare you, Congress, for challenging the authority of Minouche Shafik to speak out against the rabid, over-the-top Zionism that has been taking place in Israel, where many Israelis have been calling Gazans Nazis, which literally makes no sense, whether historical or otherwise. So I am with you, Minouche Shafik, on this one. I would join you. I would defend you. I would speak in my classes in favor of what you were saying. And there are a lot of students at Columbia University who are Jewish, unlike where I was in the Midwest, because New York City is a city with a large Jewish population. In fact, there are more Jews in New York City than there are in either Tel Aviv or Jerusalem. And for that reason, I think it is actually a moral responsibility for a professor, especially a professor with any kind of a conscience or a moral compass, to see what is going on in Gaza and to talk about it, but also to allow other people with different views to express what they think as well, not to quelch other opinions. If there are some people in a class that disagree and think that what Israel is doing is correct, they should have a right to speak as well. But that does not take away my right as a professor to say what I want to say, and neither should it deprive any professor at Columbia University from the right to speak out against the rabid Zionism of Bibi Netanyahu and those in his parliamentary Knesset coalition. And so I feel kind of divided. On the one hand, I support you, Madam President. I think what you are doing is good, even noble. And I think that more people should do what you are doing. You have exhibited tremendous heroism in being willing to speak out against the plague of Zionism, which, despite the claims of Israel, has divided the Jewish community since 1948 and before. So you, from that perspective, are a moral human being. But it seems to me as though in your efforts to defend yourself from the charges being made by Congress, that you have been willing to condemn professors who do what you've been doing and talk about disciplinary measures. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you were to do that to me, what would I do? I would immediately take what you did to the American Association of University Professors, and I would encourage them to conduct a full-scale investigation of Columbia University. And in case you're not familiar about what the American Association of University Professors does, once it finds that a university or a college has behaved in a completely inappropriate way, it can blacklist them. That does not mean it has the power to deprive a university from hiring new faculty. It does mean that by placing a university or college on a blacklist, it is discouraging people from applying for positions at that university or college. And so that is what I would do. For that reason, I must say that on one level, I am happy that I am retired, because if I were not retired, I might be caught in this firestorm. And as an autistic, the last thing I want is to be caught in a firestorm. It brings no pleasure to me, and it causes me tremendous stress and anxiety. and keeps me up at night. So in that sense, fine, I'm retired. It's not an issue that I have to deal with myself. But in my lectures, I can say what I would have said to my students in my classes if I had not retired when I did. And so, Minouche Shafik, I hope that you reconsider your mode of self-defense. Rather than threatening to fire professors who speak out against anti-Zionism, why not simply say that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are not the same? And a lot of Jews around the world, especially here in the US, but also in Israel, are opposed to Zionism, and especially opposed to the kind of rabid Zionism being expressed by Bibi Netanyahu and those in his coalition. And once again, Minouche Shafik, I would ask you to please apologize to Congress for what you have said and explain that you have misspoken and that you will defend the right of any professor to speak out as strongly as they want to against Zionism and the way in which it is literally resulting in the slaughtering of innocent civilians, even babies in incubators in Gaza. And if Israel, in my view, were not being held responsible by the international community, my supposition, and it is only a supposition, is that Israel would be behaving even more badly. Why? Because that is what Israel has done since Israel started and in the years prior to the formation of Israel as well. Political Zionism has always been an odious ideology. It is a direct attack upon the indigenism of the Palestinian community that is indigenous to that area. The Jews who migrated to Israel from Europe, from North America, and from North Africa, from Latin America and elsewhere, are not indigenous Palestinians. They have no right to move there and force the indigenous inhabitants of Palestine to leave that area and to move into a prison camp. And so finally, Minouche Shafik, please, when you reconsider what you have said, remember my words. If you do not reconsider your words, if you do not reconsider them, your memory, instead of being a memory to be cherished, will become a memory to be forgotten. Rather than being a hero of the Gazan people, you will instead become an enemy. For the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.